Some of you have been doing this for years. Some of you are just starting out a different career. I know that because I transitioned from being a cosmetic dentist into being a coach. And that was one of the scariest things ever. And then we get into this world of like uncertainty, and you're kind of trying to swim, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And you're not really in that control. But what you can control is normalizing that these moments are gonna suck. Because maybe it actually doesn't define you as a coach. On our journey today, we're actually gonna talk about what to do when actually life happens, and how to normalize the suck so that it actually sucks a little bit less. Who's in for sucking a little bit less? Because let's remember, right? For the next 2 days, you guys are going on a journey, and at the end of our, let's say, 30 to 40 minutes together, I want to make sure that you are owning your superpower as a coach. Because this is Supercoach Summit, right? Yes? Yes, right? But let's be honest, when we're starting something out, aren't we gonna suck? We're gonna suck. It's inevitable, it's gonna happen. But what I want you guys to remember is your superpower so that it actually sucks a little bit less, and that we can actually play with the suck. We can play a little bit more and have fun while it sucks. Does that sound good? Yes, yes. Can I see everyone's hands? Yes. And then we're gonna drop back into our bodies, because when we're constantly in our heads thinking something didn't go right, we're not good enough, all of these feels and emotions, we're gonna drop back into our bodies and do a practice, which is where our hats come in a little bit later. So you guys good to play? Yes. All right, let's do it. So actually, let's talk about some sucky moments. And I had some really big sucky moments many, many times. We all have. And professional sucky moments, personal sucky moments. And I want to bring back a time when my very, very first book, Emotional Grit, came out. How many of you guys remember that? Yeah, some of you guys in the room, yay. So that was a long time ago, but that jump-started my career as a coach. And I got that very, very first email in my inbox saying that I was invited to present at this organization and for their leadership team. And there was 5 men that I was gonna present to, and it was their executive leadership team, right? So like think suits and very serious. And I get this email in my inbox and I'm like, hell yes, this is my ticket. It's my foot in the door. I get to show and pitch why they need me as their leadership coach, right? You guys are following? And so here I was, I'm like, okay, I've got 2 weeks to prepare this like amazing presentation. So you know what you do is you Google like cute templates on PowerPoint, right? So I got the cutest template. I'm like, this is gonna look so good. My perfectionism came back from when I was a dentist. So, because I'm a recovering perfectionist. So that came up and I'm like, okay, everything's gotta be perfect. The fonts have to look like this. Everything has to look good, because I wanna make sure that this is gonna be my first entryway as a leadership coach. I'm gonna make sure that I like wow everybody in the room. So I go and I'm practicing for days and night, and I'm so excited, but of course, also super nervous, right? Because it was kind of like my first time presenting in this little boardroom. And so I go and I get there like 15 minutes early, which is, ask Ajit, very unusual for me because I'm usually late. And so I'm like, okay, and I got my like cute outfit on, my pencil skirt, my blazer, so I'm like, I mean business. And you know, you're thinking about all of these things. You wanna make a really good first impression, right? And so I go inside of the boardroom and with my laptop, and I practice the morning before and the night before. And then I get into the room, And it's all like, it's one of those like fancy offices where they have like clear glass windows and, these big fancy chairs. This is like pre-COVID, by the way. So everyone was still wearing suits and like dressing up. And I go in, I set up my laptop, I open it up, and I'm like, oh, shit. My presentation decided to crash. And I did not have a backup. I'm not a techie, right? I'm like, okay. And so I am standing in front of these 5 eyeballs from here to here, all staring at me, and they're like, really already? Like, come on, we've got to go to lunch in a little bit. And here I am. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to restart my computer, restarted it again. Did not open up. Restarted it again. Somehow, like, PowerPoint was malfunctioning that day. I don't know. But the universe was like, this is a sucky moment right now. And you can't get out of it. And so I just looked at everyone, and literally panic seeps in, and I'm starting to sweat through my blazer and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to surrender to this suck. And there I try to remember and recall like photographic memory because I wanted to make sure that I had those slides. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. So instead of leaning into who my audience was, I was trying to think back. And so then finally, after I was completely mortified and realized how badly I bombed that presentation, I look at the guy, Chris, and I was like, well, thank you for your time, everyone. And then I diminish my light. And then I literally ran home as fast as I could. It was a Friday, over to my couch where I had Netflix. And what else do we do when we're coping emotionally? I got my ice cream. I called my girlfriend. I'm like, I can't believe I totally sucked. I was terrible. And what did I make that meeting of? I'm like, I'm not supposed to be a coach. I'm not supposed to be a leadership coach. This is awful. This is terrible. And I was ruminating in the suck. I was in the suck so bad that I vowed to myself, I said, I'm not even gonna, I embarrassed myself so much. I'm not even gonna open emails from them. Oh no. And so I vowed not to avoid any emails from this company. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pretend like it never happened. So 6 months later, when I was still figuring that out, I got invited to another organization to do something bigger for a larger audience. And then there in the room, the very first row, Chris was sitting there. And he comes up to me after the presentation. He's like, Neeta, he's like, I don't think we ever got to thank you what you did for our team, because after you showed up, we actually changed and implemented all the things that you said. And I was like, wait, you're talking about me? Remember that was, he's like, yeah, the time that your slides didn't work. I'm like, yeah. Thank you so much for that. Now therein lies the magical moment of the suck. And many of you are going to have your moments of suck, but yours might look like getting rejected 3 times. How many has that happened to you recently or in the past? And you followed up, right? Ouch. Or maybe you got this from a partner in the last few years. Left you a note saying, it's not about you, honey, it's about me. Or maybe you've done that too, right? Still sucks. It's a big ouch moment, right? Or how about this? You finally launched and you wanted to have this big thing, but only 2 people showed up to your webinar, 2 people showed up to your presentation, and you worked so hard. Or this, your friend canceled long-awaited plans that you've been waiting for months. Or you muster the courage. How many of you have done this recently about something you believe in, and then you get trolls? Yeah. Probably don't want to do that again when you hear the trolls, right? Or maybe you finally did that thing, and then you completely stumbled on your words like I did. Or you put blood, sweat, and tears into something, and it doesn't go as planned. Because it is going to happen, right? Or maybe, just maybe, you think you're making progress, but one comment from a family member, and we all have that family member, and it sets you back. Because it was in our head, right? Whew. So how did the suck make you feel? So I want you to just recall a time when you had a sucky moment. Can we get some meditation music for about 30 seconds? And let's just get into our bodies and close our eyes. Bring up a time, a moment where you had something that absolutely sucked. How did it make you feel? You know, for me, it totally felt awful. Man, it was painful. I felt sad, not good enough, anxious, overwhelmed, judged, not worthy, right? These are the core. What else did you feel? Anger, yeah, rejected, livid, maybe even rageful. And all of these emotions, there's like the duality of both, right? You can have the rage, you can have the rejected, you can have the sad, the not good enough. You can all live in both. Stressed. I know I was super stressed when my slides weren't working. And what about this? Guilty. I was ashamed, completely. Ashamed so you avoid. Ashamed so you don't even see what could have happened. Right? You can cut the music now. So congratulations, you're not alone. You're actually just human. But it still sucked. But can I have you all reframe the suck and maybe even help you normalize the shifty human moments? Because maybe it actually doesn't define you as a coach. Maybe it doesn't even mean that you're not meant to be a coach. How many of you had that thought or feeling recently? Ever since you become certified coaches? Some of you have been doing this for years. Some of you are just starting out a different career. I know that because I transitioned from being a cosmetic dentist into being a coach. And that was one of the scariest things ever because we only know what we know, right? And then we get into this world of like uncertainty and you're kind of trying to swim and you're like, what the heck is going on? And you're not really in that control. But what you can control is normalizing that these moments are gonna suck. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not cut out for it, but it's just inevitable. It's a matter of when. Now, if I can get you all to shift the relationship to the suck instead of resisting it, right? I was resisting that suck. I didn't want the bad news. I didn't want the rejection from Chris's email, so I just closed it. I just didn't even look at it. I kept walking, avoiding until I actually saw that person 6 months later. How many of you have done that, where the rejection, the suck was so bad, you're like, I'm just not even going to open that email from that client? But maybe it wasn't so bad. So if I can get you to shift the relationship to the suck, then that means you're already winning, right? You're already winning. And let's get real. The truth is, you might just need a little bit more practice, right? That's the hard truth. Maybe I needed a little bit more practice That was my very first presentation to a big audience. Maybe I needed to lean in and see what those 5 eyeballs really wanted instead of me being in my head thinking about that perfection of my slides. How many are following that, right? Maybe you need to pay attention and be present so that you can see the feedback. If I had only saw that Chris was trying to tell me, like, yeah, we loved what you said. It wasn't in those slides. That was the magic of that moment. But sometimes we live so much in our head that we fail to recognize maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought. Or maybe we do need to ask for more feedback. And we're so afraid of that rejection. We're so afraid of the suck. We can't even be in the suck. Or maybe something better, after being rejected a couple times, after getting no-shows on your discovery calls, after getting people who say that they want to work with you and then they ghost you, maybe something better may already be making its way towards you. Because each of you have such powerful gifts. You are certified coaches with superpowers, with all of your unique experiences and your unique stories that is going to be medicine for your clients. But if we're stuck in our head and stuck with our emotions thinking, fuck, I did that thing wrong, and man, these are the signs from the universe. I'm not supposed to be doing X. I'm not supposed to be serving leaders. I'm not supposed to be serving single moms because that happened. We make those meanings, right? But can I ask you this? Can you be comfortable with being uncomfortable? I'm going to say that again. Can you be uncomfortable with being comfortable with being uncomfortable? Yes. Okay, so let's normalize the shitty moments. Let's normalize that, yeah, you might suck the first few times or the first 10 times. You might hear crickets each time you make an offer. And that's okay, because every time you'll just get better. You'll ask, you'll find out what the objection handling is. You'll get more confident in yourself because you're going to pay attention and lean in with fire in your eyes because you want the best for your clients, right? You want to share your gifts with such conviction and be so unapologetic that you don't care if you hear crickets because maybe then that client's not really for you and it's their loss, right? Or maybe 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, they're going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, I saw you at that Mindvalley event, the EverCoach, the Super Summit, and you were there, and I really needed that medicine right now. And also, everything that you're practicing right now at your first 5 pitches or first 10 pitches, it's not going to be as good as when I see you guys 6 months from now or a year from now. When you connect with the power posse of the community in this room, it's going to be different, right? It's going to be so different. And yes, you might not be as polished as perhaps some of the speakers in the room or even somebody who's been doing it for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. And that's okay. This is your journey. It's not their journey. It's yours. Can we all agree? And yes, it may suck to hear no. It may suck to hear no. But let's stack your tool belt, shall we? Let's stack it so that you can actually build that audacious resiliency with what I call your bounce factor. And how can we keep bouncing when these things happen? That's inevitable in your coaching practice. That's inevitable as you being a business leader. That's inevitable as you being the super coach that you are. So I want you to manage the suck. Is that too much to ask? So let's talk about it. There's 4 components. The first one is your upbringing. Most of us have had interesting upbringings. And I use the word interesting because it may mean so many things. Some of you may have reconciled your past, and some of you may not have, and that's okay. But here's the questions to help you think about how you deal with the sucky moments. Were you the oldest, middle child, or the youngest? Okay. Did you actually feel heard, validated, and acknowledged? Some of us from more strict cultural backgrounds probably didn't get a say. And so that will come up and trigger us when we're putting our offers out and then we get rejected, right? Did you have culture obligations or gender roles? Like I know in many of my clients' backgrounds, the boys were allowed to do X, right? And the girls had to stay inside. Did you grow up fast? I know I did. I was a child caretaker at 10 years old. So I had the school of hard knocks really early, which probably meant I would have some avoidance strategies, kind of like what I shared earlier. Or were you sheltered? Were you allowed to speak your voice, share your voice? Was that actually encouraged in your house? Or were you taught to obey and suppress your voice? How were the women treated in your culture, in your family dynamic? These are big. This is your upbringings. What does it assume that you would carry on the family business? That's a big one. Because then when you're finally stepping into your light, stepping into your purpose, stepping into your dharma, that would cause a little bit of friction, wouldn't it? And that would also affect how you're relating with your clients and the stressful moments if you were exposed to them or not. Or did you have traumatic events in your life? Loss, moving, divorce, bullying, disease. We think it doesn't come along with us, but it actually does. It's that little child in ourselves, right? Our inner child that gets triggered the moment something bad happens. So now what do? Well, we look at our current environment. And this is the thing that we can control. This is what is the juicy. This is our continuous work as coaches. How much good stress are you getting exposure to daily? I know for all of you, many of you, it took a lot to be here. Some of you had to get visas. Some of you had to get visas that were rejected. Some of you had to move things around. Some of you had canceled flights that I heard yesterday. All good stress, right? Seemingly. So this is an example. Physical exposure, right? We can retrain our neurons by taking a cold shower for 30 seconds. In the last few years, we've gotten so complacent, which is why even myself, yesterday was a little bit overwhelming to see everyone because it's been so long. Been used to being behind a screen for so long. How many of you got complacent? And it was a little bit overwhelming to see so many amazing people. Like, it was the duality of both. Like, you were excited, but then you're like, okay, I'm going to just go back into my bedroom, put on my pajama pants, see that Zoom screen because you look better on a Zoom screen right now. We had to reacclimate, right? Maybe it was daunting to step up and talk to a group and introduce yourself. If you're an introvert, or maybe that's not really your thing, because in the last few years we got complacent. So how do we stretch ourselves? How do we expand into the discomfort so that we can get better at building our bounce factor? sitting in the discomfort after somebody rejects your offer. Not an easy thing to do. Doing a social media live. Some of you have heard me say this in different communities without any planned notes. That's stretching your comfort level. You're being in that discomfort. Having a difficult conversation you've been putting off. Some of you don't like confrontation. This is huge. This is good stress, right? Playing in the dirt with your kids. I know before my children were born, I played the piano for 15 years, and my piano teacher, bless her heart, she would always like have a ruler and like hit my knuckles, right? You know what I'm talking about, Filipino. So I never wanted to get my nails dirty, ever. It was like a trigger for me. But playing in the dirt with my kids, huge. Being in the suck and allowing yourself to be with your anxious feelings. Because sometimes it's not the greatest feeling, right? And we tend to avoid. Or maybe launching something new when you're only 80% ready. Where are my perfectionists in the room? Where are you at? Launch when you're 80% ready. This is a big one. Hearing somebody else's perspective, even though you may not agree. I know I had to do that a lot in the last few years. I know many of you have had to do that a lot, right? Number 3, my favorite, our emotional capacity. Can you allow yourself to feel the feels? Most of the time, as I shared before, we avoid, right? I was avoiding that guy, Chris, like the plague, on my emails at least. We numb. We pick up that dopamine hit, which is our phones, and we're like, let's scroll on the Instagrams and forget about what just happened, right? And we distract ourselves. We go into busyness. So if some of you grew up with maybe a lot of resiliency in your upbringing, maybe you're like me and you're like, let's move on to the next, and you don't get to process those feelings until something else comes up to trigger it again, right? Or maybe for some of you, you sit in the suck for so long that you get stuck, and then there's no way out. You don't take action, right? So your emotional capacity to feel. I'm going to give you a quick check-in really quickly. So can you actually name the feeling? I am feeling blank. I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling confused. I am feeling weird. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling stressed right now. Where does it feel tight in our bodies? As coaches, certified coaches, you all know this. You ask this to your clients, but then we don't practice it. We don't embody it in ourselves, right? Where does it feel tight? Usually when I'm feeling anxious, I feel like that weirdness in my tummy, and then it moves to like my shoulders, and then my neck, and even my head. Think about that. Where do you feel it in your body? Are you okay with sitting with the discomfort? Can you ask yourself, what do you need right now? Maybe at some point today and tomorrow, it might be too much energy for you. You might need to step out. What do I need right now? Really centering back into yourself. And the most important question is, what is that feeling telling you more about? Yeah, when that person ghosted me on the call or said no to my offer when I presented it and I thought I was doing the best that I can, did that remind me back when I wanted to say no to my caretaker, but saying no was against the rules in my house, right? So in our house, we have this amazing toolkit. It's called the Time In Toolkit because I'm teaching my kids how to value their feelings and their emotions. And you guys, it's like the best when you have little ones running around because it's an automatic guide every single day. Because at that age, they've got meltdowns and they just need the tools. So thankfully, we have an emotions wheel, and we have this guide. This is like a whole setup in our house. It's from Generation Mindful. It's not my own. Generation Mindful. It's great. It's called the Time In Toolkit. But what I love about this so much is that the picture with the faces, Ari can say, Mama, I'm feeling sad. Because, it helps with our relationships when we can articulate, I am feeling sad. I am feeling frustrated that I got rejected again. What's going on with my offers? That this thing happened again, that I hired the wrong person again. Giving yourself words. And then finally, your radical self-awareness. This is big because this is how we integrate. This is how we integrate and start healing some of those triggers that come up. Right? It's your radical responsibility to know when things are out of alignment, to know and attune and come back to yourself. Let's do it right now. Let's do it for 30 seconds. Can I get some meditation music, please? Thank you. All right, let's drop into our body. Let's do this really quickly. Let's do a body scan. Okay, take a few deep breaths. And bring energy to your right big toe. That's right. Maybe it needs a little love right now. Now move that energy up to your right ankle. Has it been tired because you've been walking a lot? Give it a little bit of love. Now move that into your left knee. What do you notice the difference between your left knee and your right knee? Does it usually pop? Maybe there's a little bit more achiness there. Maybe you sit on your knees a lot. Cross-legged. Stretching it out. Bring your focus now to your sits bones, your butt cheeks. You've been sitting for a while. What parts are feeling achy? What parts need the stretch? Is your lower back hurting? Now bring that energy to your tummy. What do you notice there? Are you noticing that you're hungry? Are you noticing that maybe you're not breathing fully in your belly? Now bring that energy up to your chest. Notice. Are you expanding, contracting? You feel tension in your chest. Have you been needing to have a difficult conversation? Now bring that energy all the way up through your neck and through your head and into this room. And open your eyes. Radical self-awareness. You can cut the music. All right, and so my last few minutes with you guys, we're gonna get into our embodiment practice. This is your bounce factor. You know the 4 components. Let's hear them. Your upbringing, your current environment, your emotional capacity, and your radical self-awareness. Now, for the next few days, I would like you to pay attention to how you can increase your bounce factor daily. Giggling, laughing, because we can't take ourselves too seriously, right? Simple reminders and rituals. I still have a boatload of emails from my very first 10 clients that I ever coached, and I still keep them. I encourage you to keep those because when things get rough, which I know it will, you're building a business, and this is for the long haul. You're building your coaching skills, you're transforming people, and you're sharing your medicine. But you're gonna need those reminders. and look around you and find your soul posse and lock eyes with them. You don't have to say anything, but look around the room. See your soul posse. Some of you have been with each other for the last few years. And then getting into that creative expression. This is so juicy because we can't do what we're doing if we're not trying to find the joy in our everyday and to do more of that joy, because that's what's going to be so amazing for you. So, are we ready for our embodiment practice? Okay, all right. Let's get our hats out. Okay, this is going to be really quick because I know we don't have time. So I want you to bring a moment that sucked. You didn't get that visa. Put on the hat. And at home when you do this, you got rejected. Why don't we shout out some of the suckiness that has happened in the last month, 2 years? Anyone, go first. Yep, okay, anybody else? Divorce, yes. Anybody else? Burnout, sucky moment. Burnout, yes, another burnout. Breakup, amazing, amazing. I want you to bring in this moment. I want us to, actually, let's stand up. I want us to acknowledge it. Where does it feel tight right now? We can play some meditation music and then we'll move into the fun stuff in just a second. Where does it feel tight? I want you to drop from your heads. We're constantly thinking all day. Hold it in our hearts. Place your hand on your belly and your heart. Where does it feel constricting? Where does it feel tight? Where are you feeling that suck? I want you to now feel it, acknowledge it. Let's talk about it. Let's say the suckiness of the moment, and I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, my husband, Ajit, and I, we wanted to go on our very first date night after Isla was born. And so I had all of the things ready, planned a beautiful, what I would think is a surprise. We were supposed to go to this fancy dinner, and guess what? The babysitter never showed up. And I was livid. I was so angry. I was like, how could she not show up? This is the first time I would go on a date with Ajit in so long. We were in this like newborn phase. And boy, that fucking sucked. So let's feel the suckiness of that moment. I want you to stomp. Let's stomp the suck. Make some noise. Look at a partner. Look at somebody next to you. Yep, for 10 seconds, stomp. It's gonna look silly, I know. Tap the suck, stomp the suck. Let's get in our body. Let's look crazy. I know it's crazy. I can't believe it. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe you got divorced. I can't believe that. Okay, you're mad, you're angry, you're frustrated, sad. Say it out loud. Yes. Okay. Now I want you to play a silly song because when my son saw me pouting around the house, he was like, Mama, why are you dancing like a dinosaur? Why are you stomping like a dinosaur? And I told him, Ari, because Mama has big feelings right now, and Mama really, really wanted to go on a date with your dada. So we're gonna stomp and dance like a dinosaur. You ready? Play something ridiculous. Let's play the dinosaur dance.
Dance like a dinosaur, dance like a dinosaur.
All right, shake and stomp. You can tap.
Dance like a dinosaur,
Yes.
dance like a dinosaur.
Yes,
Dance like
get
a
it.
dinosaur,
Woo.
dance like a
Let me see you
dance, dance,
It
dance,
sucks.
dance, dance like a dinosaur.
I want you to
Dance,
move
dance,
the stuff. You can
dance, like a
dance if you want.
Dance, 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 dance like a dinosaur. Dance,
Move it.
Let me see you
shake your tail
Yes.
like a stegosaurus. Shake your tail like a stegosaurus. Shake
It's
your tail
ridiculous,
like a
right? We're doing
stegosaurus.
it. Okay, now I want you to giggle, transform the suck.
like a
Giggle and activate
see you
Dance like a dinosaur, dance like a dinosaur, dance like a dinosaur, dance like a
Let me see you
dance like a dinosaur,
All
dance like a
right, let's cut
dinosaur,
the
dance like a
music.
dinosaur, dance like a
Finally, I want you all to sit down and let's integrate that suck. Let's integrate that. Woo! Job well done for those of you who, for the first time, did that practice. So we're gonna just end with 3 breaths, okay? And I want you to buzz on the exhale, so it'll go like this. I'm gonna do that 3 times. Exhale, mouth open, breathe in. 3 times, and then buzz on the exhale again. This is also activating your vagus nerve, so we get into that rest phase. All right, let's do it really quickly. 3 breaths in. 3. And now exhale, open mouth. And now back to buzzing. Well done, you guys. So, anchor the suck by putting your hat on. And if you don't have anything to say, you say, that sucked, now what? I'm actually gonna put my hat on as well. So I'm with you on this. All right, that sucked, now what? And then we're gonna shake and stomp, move the suck, we transform the suck, and we breathe. Can you guys do this at home? Every time you have a sucky moment. Be brave to suck at something new.